Hi, good morning, everyone. So, my name is Bjorn Low. I'm co-founder of Edible Garden City. We're an urban farming company. And I wanted to actually start off the day by making you guys guess what I do, but I guess it's already said. Here I am, I'm a bean sprout. So this is illustrated by very talented Teresa. This is my wife, and a vegetable, and my two kids. So, it's something cute, and it's a change that I kind of went through in my life, and I wanted to share a little bit of that journey with you. I think when I spent quite a bit of time in the UK working in London, there was a lot of message around the media about the change, food sustainability, and climate change, changing the way that we grow our food. Desertification of land was really a big problem because of over farming and over exposure to chemical fertilizers and pesticides. I think a lot of the big agriculture companies have promised a lot to small farmers in India with GMO crops and things like that, and destroyed lives and caused ecological disasters. So this was a real jarring example of what was happening around the world, and that really got me up, paying more attention to what's happening around the food system. You have economic change. Today we're no longer in a society that is experiencing incremental change. We are actually really in exponential change time. And you have mass migration of people, economic migrants from the rural settings into urban spaces with a promise of riches. You can make more money. Why do farming? Why do agriculture? It's low-paying jobs, dirty. You don't make a lot of money. Go be a construction worker or factory worker in the city, make more money. But then what happens with this shift and this migration is that you start seeing empty farmland places, and no one's farming the food. So who is actually doing the work in the farms? So that got me thinking a lot of times, and I wanted to kind of look at how I could actually make a change in my life. I spent a lot of time working in the corporate sector for 8 to 9 years of my life, working in digital marketing. That's why I moved to London. And I started to create a checklist in my life and say, what is really necessary in life? Is it making lots of money? Is it doing something meaningful? And you come out with a simple checklist. It's like, okay, I can live without electricity, right? I can live without my phone because I really hate my phone. I get stuck on it most times. So, but food, food is something that I eat 3 meals a day, but I have no knowledge of where that food comes from and how to farm it. I think living as a Singaporean, as an urbanite in the early 80s, we were very detached from the food production system. The farms started to dwindle, getting smaller. So we're never really exposed to agriculture and food in general. And this is a symptom that happens not only in Singapore, but across cities. People started to get disconnected from food. And you go to the supermarket, everything is ready. Food becomes almost really cheap. And it caused that disconnection between people and food. So I wanted to explore that. I wanted to see that perhaps I could make a change in myself and in the food system. I started to travel. I left my job. I worked on 20 different farms in Europe, small holdings, just to see the system, what kind of systems, how do they survive the small holding and the homesteading environment. And I started to learn and started to experience life in the country and living a very self-sustainable life. And I was very happy, but not happy enough because, of course, living in the countryside is great and all that. But my mind was always back home in Singapore and saying how I could come back to see what change I could bring into our very small agriculture industry. If you come back to Singapore, today we import 90% of our food and grow 10%. If one day the border closes, where will food come from? We won't be able to be sustainable, and what will happen then? So that is, I think, one of the main drive and push for me to see what could be done locally and what we could do in terms of food security issues in Singapore. And we started 4 years ago as a urban farming company, not knowing what we were going to do, because I was trying to look for land to actually do farming, but I think land is of a premium in Singapore. Even going into the countryside in Singapore, trying to get land there, you need to be a millionaire to be a farmer in Singapore. So it was very tough in that aspect. So I started to look, and I started to walk in urban spaces. There are many spaces that are green and underutilized. There are restaurants with patios that are not used. And then I met chefs, and I met people that were interested in the local food movement and in urban farming. And we started to say, oh, I have this space. Why don't you grow something here, and I'll pay you. I was like, oh, great, okay. Maybe that's how I can start. And we started. And over the years, we created food gardens that were productive and also beautiful and aesthetically pleasing to look at. And this started from rooftops to different rooftops in central locations in Singapore. This one is in Orchard Road on top of Low. It's always been a garden in this space for the last 15 years, but today we have turned it into a food production zone and produce food for local restaurants. We started to go using very organic and traditional methods of growing, in this case using beans as a legume to fix nitrogen into the soil, and then digging that in and then planting our main crops. So we started to use very low-tech, very wholesome, very traditional methods of growing. And what we found through this is the change that it brought to the biodiversity on the rooftop. We saw that in the first 6 months there were so many pests and so much failure. But after the 6 months, you start to see that there's a balance in terms of biodiversity. The birds started to stop as a place of their daily route back to the trees in Orchard where they live and shit all over the floor. So they come to the garden, they eat up some of the pests, then they move on. And it becomes suddenly a very diverse and beautiful place. And what's actually a lot more beautiful is that what we found is that after we built places that started to produce food, people generally get attracted to places that grow food. And you ask yourself why, because I think all of us are inherently connected to food, right? So we started to, because we eat 3 meals a day and we don't know where our food comes from, we all want to find out where, how, and how to do it, right? So we started to see communities form around these rooftop farms. This one is 10,000 square feet farm in Raffles City, rooftop. And we continue to push the envelope of rooftop farming into schools, building curriculums around that. And we started to go a little bit deeper, and we started to do crazier things. This one is in the shop house in Little India, where we were given the space to activate. And a shop house, there were no ways to actually grow food in this space. So we just thought, why don't we just get some racks, some lights, just basic fluorescent lights, and we started a farm indoor. But again, the beauty of starting places like that, of food growing, is that you start to attract people into the space. And we attracted a whole lot of people wanting to talk about the future of food and food sustainability issues. And we came, we talked NUS, NTU, scientists, food scientists, and we talked about fermentation, we talked about the future of insect farming as a source of protein. It started to create topics around the food sustainability, and we created a community around the space. And through this experience, we thought we wanted to spread the message a lot more into the public and to get more people involved. We started doing workshops and activities around that. I think over the last 4 years, we have touched close to 5,000 people through the workshops and the events that we do. And we continue to then go into spaces from the gardens that we built to teach people how to grow food. This is an open farm community, which is a garden that we build and maintain. And we have a community gardening sessions on Friday, and it's free to attend. Anyone can come to learn about food growing in the tropics and the city. And you take away a plant with you every time you come. So we started to give back, to find ways of educating and empowering people in the city. And this, our program, our curriculum on food growing, just as simple as sowing a seed to harvest, to running your own farmers market, is now in 30 schools in Singapore. So we continue to reach out and educate the public and the next generation of people that will then spearhead this movement. But I think deep down, for me, what is the thing that moves me a lot is this. You know, kids should be out there doing and touching nature and being involved. These are two homeschool kids at Open Farm Community, and they come every Friday. They'll catch worms, then to feed the chickens. And here they're doing some manual labor, carrying a banana trunk. And I think this inherently is what we want to propagate into the space and get more people involved with that touch in nature. And through this entire journey, what I have learned a lot has also changed me as well. I think when I was searching for my path of what to do next after my corporate job and becoming a farmer, I think a lot of people told me that I think you're crazy, you know, you shouldn't do it, you know, you're destined to fail. My mom told me that your forefathers from China ran away from China, ran away from the farmlands, and now you want to become a farmer. I think so. They thought I was mad, and you know there was a lot of pushback. So in that way, I was trying to search for answers, and meditation actually gave me a new perspective on life, on how impermanence and change, ever-changing, nothing is constant. And I try to apply that a lot in my life and also in the work that I do. In nature, in farming, nature is ever-changing and it changes. So today there can be a good harvest, but tomorrow the insects might come and they might eat everything. But it changes all the time. And I use this approach to my work and also to my life. And I want to then use this to spread this a little bit more to the people that actually needs it the most. So last year, we started a project as a social enterprise. We started to train and employ people with disabilities, especially in the mental disabilities space. This is Daniel, is employee number 2 for us. He has autism spectrum disorder, and he's on the lower functioning range. We trained him to do indoor farming tasks where he does seed sowing, he does transplanting, he harvests the vegetables, he packs them. And why the autistic spectrum disorder? They enjoy, actually they find comfort doing repetitive work. And in agriculture, it's all about repeat work. So we continue to train them. Today we have hired 6 autistic adults under our head count. And we continue to train and hire more. This is Leonard. He has Down syndrome, and he will be part of our project where we are turning coffee waste into edible mushrooms, and we are currently building the site. So we're trying to find new business ideas, new things, so that we can provide then a sustainable long-term employment to people with mental disabilities. And one of the most not looked at portion is the elderly. I think we've seen, I think I personally have seen, I've done this project, it's at York Hill, which is at the low-income housing in the city. These elderlies are normally living in 1-bedrooms, they're single, and they are normally depressed. So we brought them down, we set up a small garden for them, and we taught them how to farm and how to grow plants. I think using horticulture as a way of reaching out, and it is a therapy at some point. And I've seen personally Mr. Tan, 60 years old, On day one, he wouldn't say anything, he was quiet, he looked down most of the time. And you could tell that he was visibly quite depressed. By week 6 of the program, he couldn't stop talking. And you then see that he has found that community of people doing something with him. On nights, he told me that when he couldn't fall asleep, he would come downstairs to the garden. Although there's only 6 beds, he would just look at the plants and take care of the plants and water plants. It becomes very a nurturing process because they are nurturing life, and when they nurture life, they nurture themselves back and pull themselves out from depression. And so we are working actively with this group to see how we can extend future employment to them. So this is it. This is what we've been working towards the last 4 years, and we are building this right now. It is going to be called the Citizen Farm. And why the Citizen Farm is because we believe that everyone should be able to farm. It can be an office worker, it can be someone with mental disabilities, it can be the elderly, it can be anyone. So we set up this space. It's going to be in the middle of Queenstown, which is very central. 8,000 square meters of space. It will be an urban farming incubator where there will be multiple systems. We have aquaponic systems, we have saltwater aquaculture systems, we have the waste to mushroom project, indoor farming, shipping container farms. It becomes then a space that is managed and operated by people with disabilities. What we wanted to build is a model that is socially inclusive, that is something that is the future for urban farming. Because urban farms, I feel, is just not spaces of food production. Urban farms are spaces that can create food, create jobs for people with disabilities, solve certain social impact issues, and also create communities around them. And so we hope that this model would be financially sustainable. The numbers look really good. And we hope that it's something that we can then scale, bring it into Singapore, in all the housing estates in Singapore, and provide jobs to the marginalized society. And we hope that this can then go into cities around the world. So imagine the change that this will bring to other urban cities around the world. Imagine the change that we will do to the people here in Singapore and to ourselves as well, when we participate in this food building process. So with this, I would like to end my speech. So thank you very much for listening.